Talkin Targaryen. That's what we went with. Name subject to change. My name is Peter, and with me today is my producer, AJ. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Weird to be on video.
Weird to be on video. I'm trying to, like, the camera's over there. I'm like, gotta readjust.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, it's like I'm on camera or something. So
yeah, but happy to be here. Happy to be doing this show. And hey, I'm happy the dragons are back, baby. Oh, see, now when we make those sounds, people can actually see our faces.
It was really embarrassing when I put the claws up.
Oh man.
Okay, so normally on the show we talk about the Malazan Book of the Fallen, but today we are going to be talking about two very expensive TV shows, and they are HBO's House of the Dragon and Amazon's The Rings of Power. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about these TV shows. Maybe sometimes some of our other hosts will show up to talk about them, but today we are obviously kicking things off with talking about HBO's House of the Dragon premiere yesterday. AJ, what was your impressions of this show?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good first episode. Yeah, I don't know. I thought I guess maybe it's because I watched all of Game of Thrones and like I know names and stuff.
Whoa,
now.
Game of Thrones expert over here.
You've read them, so I don't know why.
Watched the whole series.
So like I felt more comfortable in like those court scenes and stuff with like those conversations that were happening and like understanding how it works. Because when I first started watching Game of Thrones, I had no idea about anything. I had never read any fantasy. I hadn't done any, whatever. That was like my first big exposure to like the high fantasy realm or whatever. But all in all, I liked this one. It was I guess fun is not the word I would really use, but it was fun to be back in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, to touch on something you said, I was surprised by how little onboarding there was.
Yeah.
It was just like, well, the Red Keep. And, like, here we are. It's like the Hand of the King and, like, the Gold Club. And it was just, like, moving straight into it. There was almost no leeway given to that. You have not seen Game of Thrones.
There was no preamble. It was just like we get this beginning cutscene and then we fast forward to
the preamble was more lore. You know what I mean? It was like time for some deep Targaryen lore. And if you didn't know who the Targaryens were, maybe what Harrenhal is, it's just like you are. Although that wasn't at Harrenhal, I misspoke. But
they did bring up Harrenhal at some point. But what did you think?
Yeah, I had a good time. It was a good show. I guess it felt like it felt confident in a sense, which was nice. It just was like, here's a thing. But I think on the other hand, I also don't feel like it was serving up anything new, but also I feel like it's maybe a little soon to be slamming it for not reinventing the wheel. But it was a lot of what you're used to. There's like, there's a scene at a whorehouse. There's like knights jousting. There's like, people having political conversation. It was
somebody's getting their face ripped off by an axe. Like,
sure. Yeah. It was serving up what I think a lot of people expect from that series, but I do think it was doing it very well, and I think it was well written. So I think I feel perfectly whelmed. I don't.
Yeah, yeah. I would say I am also perfectly whelmed. It was a good scene setting, and like you said, it did feel confident, but I think that confidence, like, unlike how Gardens of the Moon felt confident from the beginning, it's like, yeah, you get it. We're in this world. Fuck you. This show is confident because it's like you've watched 7 seasons of this already. So, like, you get it.
Oh, 100%. That's why I was surprised to the extent. The only thing that did totally throw me off, what was up with the balls at the council? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know, but I love them. I love when they sit down at the table. They're not allowed to sit down until
we all put the balls in.
We all got to put our balls in.
It looks very Minority Report-y. Those like.
Yeah, I was expecting to like pop out and like have a hologram like show up around it or something.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So that was interesting.
I guess like if somebody's walking around the room, their ball is there, so you know that they're still here. I truly have no idea the utility of the ball.
Yeah, I guess part of me was like, is it to demonstrate that they have quorum or something? But it's like, the person's there. I don't understand.
Right.
There's like 6 of them. But
I don't know.
listen, I'm sure it'll come up later.
I hope so.
I don't know. It could not.
It could not. That's true.
So what did you think about, clearly, I think the episode kind of sits out and is primarily concerned in a sense with gender as one of its themes, about this distinction between, the queen has this line about the birthing is the battlefield for women or something, and then obviously her bloody birth-death scene is like so intercut with the jousting, and there's a great deal of talk about the heir and the princess. It feels very mired in this stuff. I'm very curious to see how far it's going to continue. Yeah. Did any of this speak to you? Did you grab on to some element of that, or that's kind of the theme I was grabbing onto? I wonder if you keyed into something else there.
Yeah, I mean, the show is certainly dealing with gender as like a theme, and throughout it, and even with with the daughter being, spoilers, being named heir at the end.
Sure.
And everybody being like, oh my gosh, a lady, like a queen, oh my goodness.
Queen? It's like literally the one person's like, a girl can't be queen.
Yeah, a girl can't be queen.
We're really...
Yeah. So it was there, obviously, and like I thought the intercutting with the cesarean section kind of
that was really intense, by the way.
Yeah, then the jousting, that was really intense, and I think bringing up that line of like birth is the battlefield for us or whatever, really demonstrates that point. But like it didn't. I don't know. I don't really feel like it was saying much yet. But it's definitely setting the stage to like gender's going to be a big part of this. So I'm curious to see how far they go with it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm interested to see where they take it, because I feel like they just put the ball on the table and we're like,
yes.
Women and, men, they have these different roles in Westeros. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, definitely.
For sure. I totally
for sure. No, I followed you. Yeah. What did you think of Matt Smith's turn as Daemon Targaryen, the bad boy?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a turn. Like, the first time we see him, he's, like, cloaked in shadow sitting on the Iron Throne. Like, I'm not the king yet, but I will be. It's like, okay, you're the villain. I get it. And then at the fucking end, when you see his dragon, I just wrote in my notes, of course, that's what his dragon looks like.
Sure.
Like, it's like pointy and skinny.
All
and
black and like...
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, you've got the big, scary, pointy red dragon. Like, fine. I thought he was fine. I think I am the least interested in his character, if I'm being honest with you. Because he just seems so base level, like, I'm angry guy. Like, that's his whole thing.
The only interesting moment I felt like I appreciated with him was that moment where, in that introduction scene, which is so arch, so big, was when he gives that necklace to Rhaenyra. I think that's her name. I pulled up the thing, but I don't really know it that well. And I just thought that was kind of an interesting, tender moment, and I feel like I'm most interested in the two of theirs relationship, because I feel like, I don't know, there's a world where it's just them being confrontational, but part of me thinks it's going to be more interesting than that. But, you never know.
Yeah, I'll definitely say I'm definitely interested in their, like, what their dynamic is going to be moving forward. But Matt Smith, just generally as a character, is just like sad, angry guy. Like, okay.
Can I just say, I'm not even a huge Matt Smith head, okay? But
okay,
and here's what I don't get about Matt Smith. Like, I feel like I only have encountered him playing these roles where he's like playing total creeps or weirdos.
Right.
But what I understand is he was famous for being Doctor Who, And
yeah, did you not know that?
no. But what I'm saying is, I've never watched his run as Doctor Who. Is his Doctor Who thing being a creep and weirdo? Do you know what I mean? It feels like I'm sure it isn't AJ. I'm just saying it's like I'm curious about the pivot from being assumedly charming, handsome Doctor Who guy to actually I'm like a menace, and you should be afraid of me. So maybe.
Yeah, I was never. I had, I knew some people in high school who and college who were into Doctor Who, but I was never really, my connection is tertiary at best. So I had seen a couple episodes of the Matt Smith Doctor Who, and he is certainly a different fella in this show.
Yeah, I was getting the impression he's playing a different type of character. Did anyone else really jump out at you then?
Not really. I thought not character-wise, but I thought the scene with Damon like letting loose the gold cloaks on King's Landing for the first time was, obviously brutal, but also I think really interesting because to me, I mean, maybe it was said in this show or the books or whatever, but like for me, I thought the gold cloaks were just like really brutal under the Lannisters, and I thought it was like a Lannister thing, but I guess to see that it's like been going on for 200-ish years or whatever, that they're like this brutal like city guard or whatever was interesting.
I don't even understand who they were attacking in that scene, because I know.
Well, Peter, they pointed at a guy and said murderer, and they pointed and said rapist. So, it's the people they point to.
Well, what I mean is like, I guess I just don't get it. It's like, I just don't because it's like, obviously I don't think we're supposed to believe they were actually criminals. Right. So were they literally just walking out there killing random people to instill fear? Because like I just don't understand,
Yeah, I mean, I think it was probably, it was definitely just to instill fear, and I think the idea is like, oh well, I'm actually a thief, but this guy wasn't even a thief. But if like who's to know who is and isn't these things? It's not like there's like Twitter or whatever. So if somebody's like, oh, that guy stole stuff, everybody else is like, oh, I guess so. I won't steal stuff because I don't want my arm cut off,
Sure.
So it's just like a fear thing. I don't know.
I just walked. I was confused about that story beat. I just don't know it. Like I took a guess, but
sure.
And obviously, I think you can tell we're having the seeds planted to go all over the realm. I mean, there's like this talk of the Vale. There's obviously this Dornish guy who's in there, and then the High Towers. I think the Reach is going to play a big part. It seems like the North is going to play a lesser role in the story potentially, But
yeah, I would think so.
Here's a rogue question: what was with that Song of Ice and Fire ending? That was something.
No, Pete, it's the Vision. Everybody knows about the Vision. The Vision, the Song of Ice and Fire, everybody gets it.
I think that's an interesting idea that I'm kind of chewing on,
Sure. Yeah.
And I think what's complicated is like, what does the Song of Ice and Fire even mean, Because, because now we have these two competing visions of what that story means in a sense.
Right.
But so that'll be. It seems like it's going to be a big part of the season. I'm going to guess.
The Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was made kind of a really big deal of when he was like, "This is the thing that we've passed down for generations." But like, I don't know. Maybe it didn't really strike me as a thing. It kind of just struck me as like a, what that is, and like that's kind of all I got out of it.
I think what rubbed me the wrong way is it kind of seems like it's retroactively being like, well, Aegon the Conqueror, actually he did a conquest for a good reason when you think about it.
Oh, interesting.
And like, I don't know,
because he knew.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, it was actually he did a favor.
Right. Right.
But
that is interesting.
Listen, I'm kind of just joking around. I think there's going to be more to learn about what that's going on there. So I'm going to be interested to see where the story goes in the coming weeks. Where do you have any big ideas about where we're headed?
No, honestly. I mean, I think it's going to be a very politically driven thing.
Yeah.
I think this whole thing is going to be just like a political drama with like murders and stuff, but not necessarily like a war ever breaking out.
Do you think someone's gonna have sex in the show?
No.
Okay, no sex. Okay, cool.
I did think it was interesting. The only like explicit body part we saw in the show was a butt. We saw a couple of butts, but we're not showing boobs, and we're not showing.
I thought there were some.
P's or V's.
I thought there were some boobs.
Well, there were in the brothel scene, I guess.
Yeah. No,
So.
there was no P's or V's in there.
No P's or V's, just close-ups of asses and then wide shots of the rest of the bodies.
Wide shots.
Yeah. What did you think of the scene where they burn the queen and the baby, but also B, the reveal of the baby also having died? That blew me away.
Yeah, I kind of was confirming, because at the end of the kind of birthing scene, the baby makes that weird sound, and the maester kind of gives a concerned look. So I
didn't clock that.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that's what that meant, and I was like, oh, are we gonna get a confirmation on that? And then we did in the next scene. So, yeah, that was a tremendous bummer. You know, it was a pretty felt pretty bad.
Felt pretty bad.
So the thing is, it seems like the show's going to be pretty concerned with it. So I'm interested to see. I mean, the king seems like grief is going to be a big part of his life. You know, I don't know, but
yeah, I'm curious to see how that manifests in like his actions and stuff. You know,
sure.
Because even at the council, when they were like, okay, we need to decide an heir right now, he still seemed like pretty level-headed. Like, he was obviously like upset and stuff, but he wasn't like, I feel like he hasn't gone like mad or anything. There was no like Mad King vibes.
Weirdly, before the fact, you know, there's that scene where he's in the room with the miniatures. What was up with that? I don't know. And
Dude's just carving.
Dude's just carving. He loves his minis. And and Alicent kind of comes in, and he's like playing grief. He's playing like sadness. And at that moment, I was like, oh, I see why this guy was cast. He's like absolutely crushing it right now. He is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was really engaged with his performance, and I was kind of relieved. Part of me just assumed Robert Baratheon as like this guy was going to be out the door pretty quick. I do think he will probably die, just because, you know, the show needs a power vacuum, you know.
Sure.
Yes. But I don't think that'll be. I think I hope he stays alive a long time. I hope he lives a long time.
Yeah, I hope he lives a long time.
I hope he lives forever.
Quote Peter Bond. I thought there was a lot of pretty good characterization in this episode. For a few characters, like I think Hightower, especially Otto Hightower,
sure.
I think had a really great kind of arc in this episode of like, he's the hand of the king, but also, oh man, the Hightowers are kind of a house with, you know, that people make fun of or whatever. And then he's like, oh, he's trying to get his daughter to have a kid with the king.
Yeah, that
like,
was so
man's playing
fucked up.
Dirty games.
Yeah, totally uncool.
Yeah.
The way to
very uncool.
instantly destroy a lot of goodwill I was building for that guy.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, no, bad vibes.
Bad vibes.
But I do agree. It was well written, and I think it was like they really developed that character in a lot of sense. But very, you know, I don't know, passingly. You know, it's like they did it well. I think.
Yeah, he's like a Littlefinger type character, but he doesn't give off the twirly mustache vibes. You know, like he just like is a guy, but also is kind of trying to pull strings and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was good.
No, I'm interested in following him. I'm interested in seeing what happens with his daughter. Assumedly that relationship will be strained. So she seems like she will be a primary character in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm also just excited for the scope to expand, and I'm really most keen to see how the show tries to differentiate itself from Game of Thrones. You know, I mean, how much can we just do? Oh, there's like another power struggle for the Iron Throne,
right?
You know, there's
Yeah.
another conflict between House Lannister and House Aaron. It's like, okay, it's like there's gonna, you can't just change all the names and tell the same story. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I probably would watch it just because I'm interested and I kind of like things, but
I kind of like things.
yeah,
Another quote.
yeah. I mean, that's usually not the case. I'm usually down on things, but it's like I probably would watch it, but I also am aware that like I do think I want more. I want them to go somewhere else, and I hope they go there. I hope we see something weird.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I agree. Part of me almost feels like the show is more interesting if like the king dies and it's like, there's a power vacuum, and then we just skip that part and we like, I don't know, like fast forward to the post power vacuum and just see how the world has changed or whatever. I don't know.
I don't think that'll happen. But
no, all right. Well, I don't know. I just like, because I mean, like you said, the power vacuum stuff is interesting, and I would watch it because I'm enjoying the show. But I think it could be a more interesting show than that. I guess I don't know.
yeah,
Like it has the opportunity to be something different within, the Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. Like,
but see, that's where I think I mentioned I felt like it was confident in a sense. I feel like it is really just like, hey, we're telling a thing. Here's part one. There was no like, the only time I felt like there was a type of eager energy was when they're like, there's like 10 dragons and this one's named this and this one's, and they're just like trying to get every name out in the world over there.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
do
yeah.
feel like eventually that stuff kind of calmed down, and it was much more just about sitting with different characters or kind of exploring different ideas. So,
Yeah.
even if the show ends up treading a lot of similar political beats, I still think there's potential for it to kind of explore different ideas or kind of follow different types of characters, which I think would be really interesting. So, it was a fine start, I guess. We'll see where it goes. I feel like I don't know how you could have that strong reaction. I feel like they gave you a like kind of straight down the middle.
Yeah, it's like, here is the beginning of the show. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't like anything. They're not trying to like blow socks off, because they know, I think, that they don't need to make a super big impression, because even though a lot of people didn't like the finale of Game of Thrones, they knew people were going to watch this.
Well,
So they were like, we're just going to tell our story the way that we're telling it, and you can kind of deal with it.
Well, in a way, it feels like they're like, "Hey, it's Game of Thrones. Do you remember you like these things? It's
like this."
It's like there's a maester. He's an old guy, and like, oh, what's that?
Right.
The High Septon's here. It's like,
Yeah.
So it's
But
it was interesting. What
yeah,
what
I had a good time.
Yeah, I had a fine time, and it's I like this stuff, so I'm not surprised I like the show, but
Yeah.
I do hope it goes somewhere new. So
Yes. Cool.
cool. All right.
Well, that's it.
Well, that's it. We're done. So we're going to be following up with Rings of Power here on YouTube, and then maybe we'll post something on the main feed about our thoughts about both shows once they kind of wrap up podcast-wise. But maybe. Do not quote me. And every week you can see a conversation like this on our Patreon. They won't be up here on YouTube. So thank you to everyone who supports us up there. And, we'll be very curious to hear your feedback about doing this type of stuff. It's our first time putting our toes in this water, but we definitely wanted to talk about these shows. I think we're interested in them. And, I'm interested to hear what other people think of them, too. I think that's going to do it for us today.
Yeah, that'll do it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you next week.
See you.